offering these prayers, Krishna was standing there, sort of like looking off, like in the distance, like thinking of something else completely. He wasn't like, yes, very nice prayers, Brahmaji, or like that. He's just like somewhere else. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Swarup says, Krishna was just thinking, yes, very nice, yes, hurry up, I want to go back with my friends, play with my friends. Something like that. Anyway, so Lord Brahma, so great, So he said, no, you go to Lord Shiva. He's the man, because he doesn't have any worldly concerns, he's completely detached. And so this is where we're starting. So all that was within the material universe, up to Satyaloka. Then he crosses over and comes to Shiva Lok, which is actually in the spiritual sky. It's like outside the material universe, but on the border of Vaikuntha. But in the Shiva Lok they have spiritual bodies, Satchidananda bodies, which is so it's a completely spiritual region. So Sri Parikit Uvach Bhagavantang Harang Tatra Bhavavishthathaya Hare Nittantang Kitayantang Cha Krita Sankarshanachanam Vrisham Nadishwaradingscha Shaghamanam Nijanugan Pritya Sajaya Shabdhani Gita Vadyani Tanvata Deving Chomang Prasamshantang Kara Talishu Kovidam Durad Dvishtva Munir Brishto Namad Binam Ninadayam Paramanag Nugrihitosi Krishna Sheti Muhur Muhu Jago Sarvam Chapitro Tam Suswaram Samakirtayat. Sri Parikit said, arriving in Shiva Lok, from a distance the sage Narad saw Lord Shiva, Sri Hara, who had just finished his worship of Lord Sankarshan, Sri Hari. Entranced in ecstatic love, Lord Shiva was dancing and loudly singing the glories of his Lord, while his associates played instrumental music and shouted, Jai, Jai. With great affection he praised his assistants like Nandishva, as well as the goddess Uma, who was expertly clapping her hands. The sight of all this delighted Narad. Vibrating his veena and nodding his head to show respect, he called out several times, You are the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. And in a sweet voice, he recounted to Lord Shiva everything just told him by their father, Lord Brahma. Commentary by Sanatana Goswami. So Sanatana Goswami wrote the Brihad-bhagavatamritam, all the verses in Sanskrit, and now he's commenting on his own writing. Quite extraordinary. Lord Shiva had just finished worshipping his deity, Lord Sankarshan. The rituals of his worship were similar to those Narad had witnessed on earth at Prayag. That was with the king, doing all these rituals. But at the end of the worship, Lord Shiva displayed the symptoms of ecstasy described in this verse. He hadn't seen that so far. Worship of the Supreme Lord's deity attracts both neophytes and advanced souls. But Vaishnavas who are fully self-realized enjoy intimate relationships with their worshipable deity. For such Vaishnavas, the Lord's acceptance of even the simplest act of devotion brings profound devotional ecstasies. So like Guru Maharaj explained the difference between Archanam and Bhajan. Archanam is, deity worship, and that's, in a sense, indirect, because it's worshipping the Lord through the medium of the sound, the mantra. It's called Upasana, worshipping through sound, the mantra. So, because the deity is the Lord, and we're souls, right? Conditioned souls. So it's not that we can just directly worship the Lord. So there must be some medium, that's the mantram, which is given by the Guru, by the Shastra. So to that medium. But whereas bhajan is directly worshipping the Lord, like, examples of devotees talking to the deity. Sanatana Goswami talking, joking, and even arguing and other things, you know. Do you remember Sanatana Goswami, the story? Madan Mohanji, because he was so poor in Vrindavan, could only get some dough mixed with water, some atta, wheat flour, make a ball, put it in the fire and roast it and offer that. After a few days, Madan Mohanji goes, do you think you could have a bit of salt, you know, with it? So he got some salt from somewhere, or someone donated some salt. So then he's next day he offers, you know, this chapati thing with the salt. Madan Mohanji goes, have you got any ghee, you know? So then he was getting the ghee, and then after the third day he said to Madan Mohanji, oh, I understand, you're trying to make me eat all this very opulent foodstuffs. No, you're tricking me like this. That's why he's reciprocating with the deity, correct? So bhajan means direct worship, soul to soul, whereas archanam is, you know, one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Indirect, you can say. Thus, Narad found Lord Shiva in a trance of Sankirtan, reciting prayers to Lord Sankarshan, similar to those recorded in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which he gives the verse here. Since Lord Shiva is an incarnation of the personality of Godhead, and Lord Shiva and the personality of Godhead are therefore non-different, Lord Shiva does not need to worship Lord Sankarshan to become purified from material illusion. Lord Shiva performs worship externally with standard paraphernalia to educate the world about the transcendental tastes of devotional service. Brahma is also considered an incarnation of Godhead, but Shiva and Brahma are not equal in status. Lord Shiva is non-different from Vishnu in a more literal sense. The post of Brahma is almost always occupied by a jiva, whereas no jiva can ever become Shiva Tattva, which is not a different understanding than the Mayavadis. They say that the jiva becomes Shiv. That when the jiva becomes liberated, he becomes Shiv. How's that verse? Pashu Uri Shiv, I forget. It's in the Guru Maharaj's book. Yeah. Many statements from revealed scriptures characterize Lord Shiva as non-different from Lord Vishnu. For example, in the Padma Purana, in the description of the 10 offences against Lord Vishnu's holy names, we read, one who sees differences between any of Lord Shiva's qualities and names and those of Sri Vishnu is an antagonist to Harinam. But there are no similar injunctions about the non-difference of Brahma and Vishnu. So we're talking about Sadashiv, not a Gunavatar Shiva, yeah? Gunavatar Shiva is like a demigod, right? Devata. So they were saying to consider the names of demigods to be equal or non-different as the names of Lord Vishnu is offence. But that's the Gunavatar Shiva. But the higher aspect of Shiva, eternal aspect of Shiva, Sadashiva, yeah. And sometimes you give the example like milk and yogurt, yeah. So, milk and yogurt, in one sense, you can say they're the same. Same, but also the action is quite different. Because if you take the milk and you add some acid, it becomes to be yogurt. But then the action and the effect of milk and the actual effect of yogurt is very different. And it can only go one way, from the milk to the yogurt. It can't go back again. No. So like Vishnu is like the milk and Shiva is like the yogurt. Understand? Yeah. A good example. That's in the commentary on Brahma Samhita. Authorized scriptures state that persons like Vashishta, who are certainly finite jivas, will become Lord Brahma in their own universe in future lives. Theoretically, any jiva soul can attain the post of Brahma. As Lord Shiva told the Prachetas, Svadharma nishtak shata janmabi puman, virinchatang iti tata parang himam. A person who strictly executes his occupational duty without deviation for 100 births becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. And if he becomes more qualified, he can approach me, Lord Shiva. These words state that a Jiva can join Lord Shiva, not that he can become Shiva. Narad has included Lord Shiva in his search for recipients of the Supreme Lord's mercy, because Lord Shiva is a special incarnation of the Lord in the form of his own devotee. The followers of Lord Shiva, who Narad saw on Shiva Lok, were all great Vaishnavas who deeply imbibed their master's mood of Vishnu Bhakti. Lord Shiva praised them for their artistic accompaniment, especially his consort Parvati for her hand clapping, because their performance was manifested directly from pure devotion. Yeah, so it's coming from the heart of pure devotion and, manifesting and physically. It's not like, okay, now I'm going to do this style, I'm going to do this way or this way and try to make a good performance or impress people or anything like that. So that would be the real, isn't it? That's the real dancing, chanting, etc. Witnessing all this, Narad also became ecstatic. He danced so enthusiastically that he was unable to offer prostrate obeisances. And since he didn't want to stop playing his veena, he showed respect simply by nodding his head. Then, wanting to say something to show approval of Lord Shiva's behaviour, he proceeded to recount what Brahma had told him about Lord Shiva's glories. But I don't think Lord Shiva is going to be very happy with this.
Oh.
But he says, Narad came closer, hoping to touch the dust of the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, the best friend of the Vaishnavas. But as the sage came near, Lord Shiva, a flood of Krishna-conscious pleasure driving him wild, forcibly drew Narad closer and embraced him. Without hesitating, he asked Narad with respect, "Dear son of Brahma, what are you saying?" So he's giving many praises, Lord Shiva, telling, "Oh, Lord Brahma told me this and told me that, told me this." But he's not really understanding it, Lord Shiva, because he's in an ecstatic mood. So it's just like words or something, And he just embraced Narad then. Absorbed in the taste of talking with that superlative Vaishnav Narad, Lord Shiva then stopped his playful dancing and sat down. He sat on a straw mat in the Virasan posture, and a few of his gentle companions seated themselves around him. With devotion, Narad bowed down to Lord Shiva. The life and soul of Parvati, and chanted the 6-syllable Rudra mantra. Commentary, he says, one who is observing a serious vow should sit on a kusha mat called a vrishi, assuming the meditative, quote, hero's posture, the virasana. Vira means hero, like Vira Chandra.
What is the posture is?
It's called virasana.
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 Yeah, the hero's posture.
Okay.
Asana is posture,
Yeah.
and Vira means hero.
Okay.
Like Vira Chandra.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the name of Nityananda's son, yeah? Vira. In Ayurveda, sometimes Vira is like the life semen, also called Ojas, sometimes called Vira. It means like where the life force, And so this Virasana posture is like the left, I believe it's the left leg on the right thigh and the right hand over the left hand, like that.
Okay.
And so he started praising Lord Shiva with this 6-syllable Rudra mantra, which begins Namaste. Narad then recited prayers glorifying Lord Shiva as the supreme controller of the universe, and elaborately proclaimed the fullness of the mercy bestowed upon Shiva by Lord Krishna. Lord Rudra, the best of Vaishnavas, the initiator of devotional service to Vishnu, at once covered his ears and angrily replied. It says, Karno Pidaya Rudro. Rudra, Karna means the ears. You've heard that book, Krishna Karnamrita.
Yeah.
So it means nectar for the ears. The nectar of Krishna entering the ears. Krishna Karnamrita. Karna. So Karno Pidaya, he put his hands over his ears. Rudra. And he was angry. Of course, he founded a Sampradaya as well, the Rudra Sampradaya. So generally he's more famous as a Vaishnava, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, than as an incarnation of Vishnu. Depends where you are though. In South India they worship him as the ultimate, Vishnu, as the ultimate God, But Shiva. Yeah. And it's interesting because the Rudra Sampradaya, there's 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas.
Yeah.
So if you look at their teachings, all of them, disagree and refute the Shankara idea of absolute oneness, Kevala Dvaita Vad, monism. There's absolutely no distinction between the Jiva soul and Brahma, and ultimately there is no Jiva soul. That's an illusion. That's their idea. But all the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, they say there's a oneness in quality, but a difference in quantity. But they explain it in slightly different ways, and they've got fancy names like Vashishtadvaita Vad of Ramanuja, and but if you look at them, the 4, the one which you could say makes most clear the distinction between the Jiva soul, Jivatma and Paramatma is definitely Madhvacharya, which is our line, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya. And that's why you see Madhvacharya like this in his picture as a guru. He's like this, the Atma, Paramatma, separate, distinct. And then there's the 2 in the middle. They'll be like Ramanuja and Nimbaka. At the other end, where it's more, where sort of the oneness of the Jiva and the Lord is a little bit more stressed or looked at. Still distinction. There's not absolute oneness, but they're stressing the oneness in quality of the Jiva and the Lord. That's the Shiva Sampradaya, not surprisingly. And the great commentator of the Srimad Bhagavatam, who was a disciple in that line, is Sridhar Swami, not Sridhar Maharaj. No. Sridhar Swami, who's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Mahaprabhu appreciated extremely his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. Though externally, this Vishnu Swami was a Mayavadi in his dress, and he was actually he was the head of the Shankara Mutt in India for many years. So externally he was posing as a Mayavadi. Sridhar Swami. Yeah, posing, yes. But actually, internally, he was like very much a Vaishnava, a devotee of Narayan. So sometimes it's like that. Same with Mahaprabhu, he took sannyas from Keshav Bharati, who's the Shankara line. But you know that story that he...
Which can you say?
Well, just they say that because when the time came to receive the mantra of sannyas, Mahaprabhu himself said to Keshav Bharati, I heard this mantra in a dream. Is this the mantra you will give me? And he whispered that mantra in the ear of Keshav Bharati. So they say in this way, he initiated Keshav Bharati, and then Keshav Bharati gave him the mantra back,
That's very shrewd.
And when Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi, in Benares, and he went to meet with Prakashananda Saraswati, the great Mayavadi guru, with all his disciples, he went reluctantly. He didn't want to go. The reason he went was because the devotees were upset that he was maligning Mahaprabhu, saying, he's a sentimentalist. He's a sentimentalist, comes from Navadvip dancing and chanting, and all these people following him. Yay, we do Bhakti, it's so easy. Hari Hari Bol. Not serious, not serious, not studying the scripture, going deep, study, meditation. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, we're having such fun, So he didn't appreciate that. So because devotees were upset, they came to Mahaprabhu and said, so Mahaprabhu said, okay, I'll go and see him, And you know the story, he was sitting in the foot wash place. It's like unclean place. Mahaprabhu was sitting there, and then they noticed, they saw this light coming from the doorway, this Brahmic effulgence. And Prakashananda looked, he thought, oh, inside there's a man, beautiful man, sannyasi, and he said, no, come in. And Mahaprabhu said, no, you're a great spiritualist, I'll be here. And he, with his own hand, he took him in, and they had some discussion. And he was very impressed with Lord Chaitanya. Not so much his philosophy, because at that time he didn't really say anything. He didn't give any refutation of Prakashananda's understanding about Vedanta Sutra. He just said, because Prakashananda said, why are you doing all this chanting? I think you're a very bright person and very good person. And also you've taken initiation in our Sampradaya, Kesha Bharati. And he said, of course, Bharati, that's not very high level sannyas, because there's 108 sannyas names. And there's like a gradation. The first 8 are the top. Like that's Saraswati, Tirtha, Aranya, Giri, like that. And then there's like all the others, and Bharati is somewhere in there. So he said, but still, you have a lot of promise, but I can't understand why you're always doing this chanting. Why you do that? And he gave a very nice answer. He said, he could have answered in like so many different ways, that question. But he just said, well, I went to my guru and I asked him, shall I study Vedanta? He said, no, you're not good for that, I'll give you this mantra, just chant this mantra, and everything, you'll get everything, all knowledge and all consciousness and everything. So Mahaprabhu said, I was just practicing that, chanting, and then all these things started happening to me. It wasn't my idea, it wasn't my desire, but I was falling on the ground, perspiring and crying. I don't know, He just answered like that. So he didn't say anything, but internally he was touched, and later he was converted. But anyway, so Lord Shiva covered his ears and he said, I'm not the Lord of the universe, nor an object of Krishna's mercy. I'm just a poor soul, always hankering for the favour of the servants of his servants. Sri Pariksit said, upon hearing this, the sage Narad was shocked. Thinking he had acted offensively, he at once stopped praising Lord Shiva's non-difference from Krishna and began to speak in a soft voice. Sri Narad said, you certainly know the confidential, mysterious glories of Lord Vishnu and the Vaishnavas, and you expertly explain those glories. So he sort of took it down a notch, and he started praising, Lord Shiva more like as a Vaishnava, not as non-different from the Lord. And he was thinking, well, hopefully at least he could maybe accept this, praising. The best Vaishnavas therefore aspire for your mercy. Lord Krishna also has great regard for you and extensively spreads your glories. Has Krishna not worshipped you many times in his various incarnations and taken from you many boons? Sri Pariksit said, hearing this, Lord Shiva could no longer maintain his gravity. Ashamed, he sprang to his feet, covered Narad's mouth with both hands, and said, don't even mention that arrogance of mine. Arrogance in offering benedictions to Lord Krishna. At one point. He then boldly told Narad with surprise in his voice, "Just see the most incomprehensible power of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord." Oh, my Lord is so sober. He is such a deep and varied ocean of great qualities. Even though I've committed many kinds of offences against him, he still does not reject me. Commentary: the ocean is too deep for one to measure. What to speak of diving into it and reaching its bottom? The ocean cannot be moved from its fixed place, and the opposite shore is far beyond anyone's vision. Similarly, the Supreme Lord's qualities are countless. They include every possible kind of greatness, and each of his qualities is unrestricted and boundless. Lord Shiva considered himself offensive to have shown off his own power before Lord Krishna by offering him benedictions. Other offences he had committed against the Lord were too painful for him to recall. He was sometimes fighting with Krishna also, because he had to support the Asuras. The Asuras take shelter of Lord Shiva against Lord Vishnu, and that's his service, is to support them and protect them. So for that he has to sometimes fight, with Lord Vishnu. What to do? But Sri Krishna never considers anything done by Lord Shiva offensive, since Lord Shiva always acts in this world only to promote the cause of Krishna's devotional service, either directly or indirectly. Sri Pariksit said, seeing Lord Shiva completely absorbed in the transcendental taste of pure devotion for Krishna, Narad, pleased beyond limit, grasped Lord Shiva's feet, made him sit down again, and spoke to appease him. Sri Narad said, "You are so dear to Lord Achyuta. Is it possible you could ever offend him? Though people sometimes see what they think are your offences, he never sees them at all." Bana was a cause of trouble for saintly persons. Banasura had 1,000 arms.
Yeah.
Too proud of the strength of his arms, he used magic to arrest Aniruddha and fight against Krishna, the wielder of the disc. When you saw that Bana, your devotee, whom you had maintained like a son, was on the verge of being killed, to save his life, you offered prayers to Sri Hari. At once Lord Krishna put aside his anger. Now pleased, the Lord gave Bana a form like his own and raised him to being one of your associates, a position rarely obtained even by demigods. When such enemies of the Vaishnavas as Gargya worshipped you by severe penances, the benedictions you gave them were not without loopholes. Yeah, so even though Lord Shiva gives boons to the Asuras, because he's a devotee of Krishna, there's some caveat in the boon, as he's calling it, loophole. For example, this one Gargya, he did austerities. He wanted to kill the whole Yadu dynasty, destroy Krishna's family, the Yadu dynasty. So he sort of mitigated. He gave him the boon, but he mitigated, Lord Shiva, so he could only frighten and frustrate them and upset them, but not kill them. Like that. Similarly, Jayadrath. Jayadrath was blessed by Lord Shiva that he could defeat the Pandavas, all except Arjuna. And there's different examples he's giving there. And Jayadrath was, he instigated the thing that killed Abhimanyu. You know, that thing where he smashed into the army, broke it into the army, but he couldn't come out. You know the story? Yeah, because they made such a formation that Yudhishthira was frustrated and he didn't know how to break it. But he'd heard that there was this particular way, it had a certain name, that you could break into the army and destroy it from within and then come out again. And Abhimanyu was there and he heard him saying that. And he said, I once heard that being discussed in the palace, you know. And but I only heard the first bit, how to go in, which I remember, but not the bit about how to come out. And you just said, oh, don't worry, we'll all follow you in, all us brothers and the big generals, you know. You just make the gap, break in, we'll follow you straight in, so you won't be alone inside. But Jayadrath was very, very tricky. So when Abhimanyu came in, he managed to close the gap over. They couldn't come in then. And he was on his own inside, a 16-year-old boy, son of Arjuna, and fighting incredibly, you know. He was just like killing just like divisions and divisions of soldiers. But finally they got him, you know, they all ganged up on him, I think 5 of them. Duryodhan, Dronacharya, and others, you know, and all attacking him at once, which isn't allowed, of course. It's supposed to be one-on-one, right?
Not playing the game.
Yeah. And finally, Dushashan was the younger brother of Duryodhan, and he was quite wicked, you know. He was the one who pulled Draupadi by the hair into the meeting.
To who, sorry?
Dushashana,
Okay.
the younger brother of Duryodhan.
Yeah.
And he would always do, you know, he would always do whatever Duryodhan...
By the hair?
Yeah, well, initially what happened was, you know, the Pandavas were gambling,
Yeah.
and they lost their kingdom, they lost their wealth, they lost their, you know, horses and chariots, everything they lost, everything, but Duryodhan said one thing, you know, it was actually the evil uncle, what was his name? You know, the uncle, the one who was cheating with the dice.
Yeah.
Begins with S.
Remember?
Anyway, he was the evil uncle, and he said, well, actually they have one thing left that they can gamble, and then that will really finish them off. And Duryodhan says, what? He says, their wife, Draupadi. So Duryodhan sent a servant to go and get Draupadi from the inside, you know, the palace, from the ladies' quarters. And when he went there, she refused to come, you know. She says, no, I'm not going to go there, you know. That man, Duryodhan, no way, you know. So then Duryodhan sent Dushashan, his brother, and he forcibly dragged her out and threw her in the thing, you know. So for that reason, at that time, Bhima took a vow to kill Dushasana, to actually pull out his heart and drink his blood, you know. That was the vow he took. And that actually happened in the war. First of all, in the fighting at some point, and these people, I mean, Dushashan, Duryodhan, they're all great fighters also, you know, Maharathis. They're not like really great people, you know, that way. But anyway, so in the fight, he cut off one of his arms of Dushashan, Bhima did. Then he was dragging him by the other arm to the front of everyone. Then he cut him open with his knife, pulled out his heart, but he didn't actually drink his blood. That was the thing, because Draupadi was horrified. But he said, I didn't actually drink it. I just touched it and threw it, you know. Something. But anyway, so Dushasana, he got his comeuppance, and then of course also Duryodhan, because he pulled up his dhoti and showed his thigh to Draupadi. That was like a super insult to a chaste lady, you know. So Bhima said, I'll break that thigh, you know, and later he did in their fight with the mace. They were fighting, Bhima was stronger physically, but Duryodhana was more skillful with the weapon. They'd both been trained by Balaram, who's a real expert with the mace. So in the fight, when the fighting was going on, Krishna was there, Balaram was there, so they were kind of both supporting their sides, And in the fighting, they went up like in the sky, like this, Siddhi, they're fighting up in the sky, just clashing. And then as they were coming down, as Duryodhana was coming down, Krishna saw his chance, and he said to Bhima, hit him now. You can't hit below the waist, like in Bhakti, that's against the rules. But he smashed him on the thigh. He broke the rules. Krishna, It's the only way. So then Duryodhana was like smashed on the ground, still alive, It's kind of like, it's almost like you can't help almost feeling sorry for him at that point, even though he did so much wicked things. But then one thing was, he said, my last wish is, he told to Ashvatthama. Ashvatthama was the son of Dronacharya. Dronacharya was the head of the Kuru army after, when Bhishma Dev was killed, finally, well, he was on the bed of arrows, right? So they had to make a new general, so that was Dronacharya. And Dronacharya, he was the guru of the Pandavas and the Kauravas, both of them. So he was respected by them both. And he taught Arjuna the bow archery. So there's an amazing fight between Dronacharya and Arjuna. And it's like Dronacharya is trying all these things, but Arjuna's like outwitting him as well. Anyway, he was great, Dronacharya, but his son was Ashvatthama. But Ashvatthama was born from the mother of Ashvatthama was not a Brahmin. Dronacharya is a Brahmin, but the mother was not Brahmin, so he was like half Brahmin, right? Ashvatthama. So he was commissioned by Duryodhana when Duryodhana was lying with his all broken. He said, my last wish before I die is that you bring me the heads of the Pandavas, the 5 heads of the 5 Pandavas. Even though the war was finished, but somehow or other, by deception, by guile, if you can do that, then I'll die happy, man. Like. So it happened that there's just few of them left after the battle. Ashvatthama, and I forget whether there's about 4 of them, Kauravas, right? And they were camped outside the Pandava camp after the battle. There was the big camp there, and they were on the outside, maybe half a mile away or something. And what happened that Ashvatthama was trying to figure out how is it possible that I can be able to do this, because they're inside the middle of the camp. The Pandavas in the royal tent, surrounded by everyone, and he was thinking, and then what happened was the other said, forget it, you won't be able to do it, just let it go, he was, I have to do it, last thing for Duryodhana, because Duryodhana showed him so much kindness, same like Karna, even though he was wicked at heart, but, Duryodhana, he supported Karna against Arjuna. So anyway, Ashvatthama was thinking what to do. So the other said, look, forget it, we're going to take rest, okay? So just do whatever you think. So they took rest, and then Ashvatthama was sitting under the tree, and he noticed that it was in the middle of the night, and there were all these crows sitting on the tree, perched on the tree, and all of a sudden this owl came down. It's like killing the crows, So he thought, that's it. I'll somehow, if I can get into the camp, like secretly, we can't kill them in open battle. It's not possible. But that way, so he prayed to Lord Shiva. He did a yajna to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva appeared and gave him a special weapon, an indestructible sword. And he said, with this you'll be able to cut the heads. So somehow he got into the camp and into the tent and he saw these 5 bodies sleeping, and he cut the heads and put them in a bag. And he came out, and the next day he took the bag, to Tridandi, he put it on the ground. He said, I've done it, I've got the heads. And
But it wasn't the Pandavas.
I know, Duryodhana said, let me feel it. And he went like that, and he felt that, he said, no, this is not them, it's too soft. It was the sons of the Pandavas. He'd killed the sons, Draupadi's sons, 5 sons, so she was extremely angry against Ashvatthama, of course. So Arjuna said, it's all right, I'll get him, I'll do him in, I'll finish him, So Arjuna went then after Ashvatthama. But what happened, Ashvatthama, because he was half Brahmin, right, he could enter the assembly where the Brahmins were chanting their mantras and doing their things, right? So he snuck in there and he sort of hid in the middle, like Swaha, it was Arjuna coming, And Arjuna, he just went straight in and grabbed him, took him out. And he's going to cut his head like this. And then in the last moment, Draupadi said, no, don't kill him. There's been enough killing, so much killing. And he, after all his, Brahmin and everything. So Arjuna he cut the thing on his head, the jewel. They have a jewel in their hair. And this jewel is their psychic energy, spiritual energy. So he cut that, took that. So he was like a broken man, sort of thing. And then he was banished. He was banished from the kingdom.
Wow, what a tale.
Yeah. And then, that was kind of... And the other bit I also remember, which I liked as well, which was Gandhari. Because every day, Bhima had taken a vow. He said, every day I'll kill 10 of them. There's 100 sons, Duryodhana, and 99, 100. So he said, every day I'll kill 10. So after 10 days, they'll all be gone. So after 10 days, only Duryodhana was left. That all others had been killed. So Mother Gandhari, they're her sons, right? So she was in Hastinapur. So she thought, I've got to at least save one. At least if I can just save one, Duryodhana, from the family. So she came to the battlefield, and she was there in their ladies' quarters on the side of the field. And she sent a message to Duryodhana, tomorrow come and see me in my tent, but come naked, right? So she had an idea. Her idea was that because all the time the battle had been happening, she was back in Hastinapur. Remember, she was blindfolded.
Yeah.
She took a vow to always be blindfolded because the Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. That's why he couldn't rule the kingdom, really. So she didn't want to be superior to him in any way, so she put a blindfold on. But she'd been doing tapasya all the time to save her sons from being killed. So she had a lot of power, a lot of Shakti built up in her. So her idea was that if Duryodhana would come, stand before her naked, she would just lift the blindfold for a second and look on his body, and it would become immortal. It would become indestructible, like diamond, so hard you couldn't destroy it. That was her idea. But of course, Krishna, knowing everything, and being the super soul of all the deities, so it just happened in the morning, Duryodhana was crossing over to the tent of Mother Gandhari, naked, and Krishna came out accidentally on purpose, Said, what are you doing, Duryodhana? You can't go like that before your mother. At least put on a gamcha, something around your waist, like that. So, okay, so he did that. So when he went in, and she looked, his whole body became immortal, except for that bit, the thighs, And that's how he was able to be killed by Bhima, smashing him in the thighs. And she was so angry on Krishna for that trick, or that thing, deception, whatever you call it. She said, I curse you, Krishna, that within however many, it's a short time, 360 days or something, your whole family, the whole Yadu dynasty will be finished, will be destroyed. And Krishna was very happy. He said, yes, mother, I accept your curse. Because he could have easily, blocked it. But Krishna had been thinking, I'm going to leave the planet very soon. But that means my whole family has to also leave. So how to arrange for that? It's perfect, Yes, I accept your curse. So, the Yadus, they all destroyed themselves fighting. They got intoxicated on wine or liquor or something. And then they plucked these bulrushes from the side of the lake. But these bulrushes were made of iron, because in the previous story, a ball of iron, long story behind that, but anyway, this ball of iron had been crushed into powder and thrown in the lake. So these bulrushes had come up like iron, made of iron. So these weapons, they all destroyed each other, the entire Yadu dynasty. And then that was the end, and Krishna left. And Arjuna lost his power, He said, when Krishna was there, driving the chariot, I could do anything. I was unstoppable. And he was on the road and he got attacked by some thieves, ordinary like brigands, and he couldn't defend himself. They couldn't, it's like a terrible thing, yeah.
The pastime was finished.
Well, then, the Pandavas went back to Godhead.
Krishna had gone.
One by one, they went up to.
All those particular qualities that were given were also dispersed one way or another. That normal again.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking. Gosh, wow.
So, back to Lord Shiva, and Narad saying to Lord Shiva, although Chitraketu and others like him foolishly dared criticize you, you never became angry at them, because they were surrendered devotees of plenary portions of Lord Hari. You know about Chitraketu, he insulted Lord Shiva. He was King Chitraketu. He had something like 100 wives, right? But he had no issue. He was very distressed because there's no son to continue the kingdom. So Narada Muni and his friend Brigu Muni, the two of them, sometimes they travelled together. They turned up at the palace because they could understand his problem, and also in the future he would be involved in some pastimes, special things. So they came there and they said, "O King, what is you seem to be upset. Why are you upset?" And he said, "Because I've got everything, all the wealth and the enjoyments and the land and the money, everything, but no son. It's all useless, no son." So they said, "Okay, we'll bless you that you do a yajna, a sacrifice, and when your wife, I think it was his top wife or the first wife or favourite wife, something, and she will eat the remnant of the yajna, the offering, she will then give a son. But this son will be the cause of your greatest happiness and your greatest distress also." But he was so eager, he said, okay, anything. So in the course of time, that she gave birth to a son, and they doted on the son, of course, in the palace, and he had a nurse, and the nurse, making sure he's fooding, he's sleeping, everything like that. So much attached to him. And then some of the other queens, they became envious because they didn't have any son or any child, and they couldn't tolerate it, so they poisoned the child. They put poison in his food. Oh my God! So one day, the nurse came in and the boy was lying on the bed like dead, And she came waking up the boy, and she said, "Ah!" She's running through the palace. "Ah!" What's happened? What's the matter? He said, "Boy, he's dead, he's dead." So they both came in, Chitraketu and the wife, and all the queens, other wives, pretending they didn't know anything, right? "Oh, what happened?" And then Chitraketu remembered, there will be my greatest happiness and my greatest suffering. So they came there again, Narad and Bhrigu Muni, and they told him, this is, you see. So he became completely detached then. After that, he left everything. He went travelling like like Vanaprasth, travelling around to different lokas, different dimensions. He had, And at one point, he met Lord Shiva on his travels. And Lord Shiva was travelling, as usual, on Nandi, on the bull. They say naked, but maybe he had some tiger skin or something. And Parvati, like on his lap, sitting on his lap. Normally that's in public, that's not a done thing, right? The husband being intimate that way with the wife, like that. So he Chitraketu, he criticised Lord Shiva. "Oh, what is this? Behaving like an ordinary sense gratifier. You don't know proper behaviour," and so on. And Parvati was very upset. "What are you criticising Lord Shiva? Don't you know who he is? I curse you to take a demon birth." So he said, "Yes, mother," he accepted. And Lord Shiva wasn't at all upset, like it's mentioned here. In fact, he sort of chastised Parvati. And the famous verse in the Bhagavatam, "Don't you know how great are the devotees of Narayan? Wherever they are, heaven or hell, there's no difference in their consciousness. They are serving the Lord in any case or any condition." Like that. So Lord Shiva was not offended by Chitraketu's laughing when Lord Shiva sat with Parvati on his lap in the presence of a group of sages. Once, just to please Lord Krishna, you expressed a desire to become even greater than he, but then you very cleverly modified your request, asking him instead to make you his devotee. Therefore the Supreme Lord granted you and the goddess Durga the authority to give liberation, the liberation for which Brahma and many others pray. Just see, though you have power and opulence unobtainable by Brahma and the other demigods, you disregard your material happiness and live like a holy madman. Always fixed in a trance of devotion for Lord Vishnu, you appear totally insane. Who else but you would go dance naked with his wife and attendants? Also, it's mentioned in the Arti. One of the songs they sing on Ekadashi. It's called Harivasara Giti. Harivasar means the day of Hari, which is Ekadashi, Giti song. So in that song, that bhajan, it's mentioned. And when Lord Chaitanya is dancing, and Lord Shiva is also dancing, and in his ecstasy, all his clothes fall off, and he doesn't notice. So, today I've finally seen your amazing, uncontrollable eagerness to serve the Supreme Lord in pure devotion. No wonder Krishna always loves you the most. What more can I say? Krishna's love for you is never interrupted, and by your mercy many others have become dear to him. By Mother Parvati's mercy also, many other persons have become dear to Lord Krishna. She knows in detail the true nature of both Lord Krishna and you. Yeah, because even at that time when Lord Shiva became attracted by Mohini Murti, right, and ran after her, this is a leela, to show how even Lord Shiva, who's in supreme control of his senses, like these snakes on him, they're like, snakes represent sensuality, but they're crawling all on his body and he's not affected, you know. So, but even he was running after Mohini Murti.
Oh, yes,
yeah. And it says at that time, it says Parvati was standing there like with like a smile on her face, like was amused or I don't know.
Hari Hara, was it that place?
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
Hari Hara, yes, half Vishnu and half Shiva.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that in South India, there's a bogus conception, or bogus according to Sripad Maharaj, because they mentioned it about this Ayappa. They say that, you know, in this example, Mohini Murti, who's Vishnu form, in a female form, united with Lord Shiva and had a son called Ayappa. And they have these deities of Ayappa in South India, it's quite popular. When they mention that to Sripad Maharaj, he says, no, it's not. They're not having that relation, Vishnu and Shiva. And it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, when he was chasing Mohini Murti, he discharged semen. And that became gold mines and silver mines on the earth.
Well,
so, yeah. Be
that's
careful.
nothing compared to, it's all wild, it's so wild. It's
wild, yeah.
extraordinary.
Mother Parvati, Ambika, is Krishna's own sister who always receives his affection. That is why you care for her even though fully satisfied in yourself. So Parvati is a non-different expansion of Yoga Maya. There's two aspects, Mahamaya in the material world and Yoga Maya in the spiritual world. Both are powers of illusion. Material illusion is the ahamkar, the covering of the soul, misidentification with matter. I'm this body, everything connected with this body is mine, etc. And the spiritual illusion is covering the soul to not recognize Krishna as Bhagavan. He's my son, he's my friend, he's my beloved. That's the Maya we want to definitely be under, but not the other one, of course. So Parvati appeared from the womb of Yashoda Mai, when at the same time when Krishna was born of Devaki in the prison of Kamsa in Vrindavan. She was Parvati, or was born from Mother Yashoda, and they were swapped, right? They got swapped over. Therefore, Krishna regards Parvati as his sister. Just see. You give her pleasure by always holding wonderful festivals with singing of Lord Vishnu's names and recitation of his glories. At those times, she enjoys the company of Lord Vishnu's devotees. Sri Pariksit said, "Dear mother, Lord Shiva was so embarrassed by hearing this that he lowered his face. Then that leader of the Vaishnavas answered the great devotee Narad. Sri Mahesh said, "Oh, how painful this is. My dear Narad, free of every trace of false pride, how can you compare me, the root of all pride, to Krishna, the Lord of prideless sages?" Because he's Sankarshan, is the Lord of the false ego. Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha and Vasudeva. So he's an aspect of Sankarshan, which is the false ego. So he's saying, I represent the root of all false pride, material attachment. So how can you compare me to Krishna, the Lord of prideless sages? I'm covered by many false identities. I consider myself the Lord of the universe, the all-knowing giver of knowledge, the liberated bestower of liberation, the devoted granter of devotion for Vishnu. So, because he's the Lord of the false ego, you'd think that somebody who's the Lord of something would be immune from the influence of that thing, right? But here he's saying, Lord Shiva, no, I'm under the influence of this ahamkara. And he says, even me thinking myself to be a dear devotee of Lord Vishnu and to be the recipient of his special mercy, as you are saying, Narad, that's another influence of my false ego, that I'm believing that, I'm thinking that. When the fearful time of annihilation arrives, in which everything must be devoured, I'm obliged by the mode of ignorance to destroy the entire cosmos. When I think of this, I feel ashamed. Dear Narad, if I had even a drop of the mercy of Lord Hari, why did he fight me when he took away the parijat flower, when Aniruddha stole Usha, and on other such occasions? Why would he worship me, his servant, and why would he order me, turn people away from me by concocting your own versions of scripture? He's talking about Shankaracharya. He ordered Lord Shiva to turn people away from him by giving some concocted interpretation of Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta Sutra is describing the jiva and the Paramatma. You know, there's oneness and difference, but in Shankara's interpretation, exclusively only looking at the oneness and ignoring the difference. This is wrong, you know. But it was very attractive to people of more of impious temperament, and so that was the beginning. You know, the founding of the impersonalism. You know, although some form of it had existed always before, as long as man has been on the earth, there will be such types of misinterpretations and atheistic conclusions. For example, like Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, he's talking about, in one purport, you know, Lord Buddha, right? Buddha, teachings of Buddha are this idea that everything is impermanent. There's no permanent entity like an Atma or soul. Everything is just a flux of changing phenomena. So consciousness also isn't like an eternal entity like Atma. It's just produced by this combination of elements. And when they're again pull apart, there's no consciousness anymore left. Like you give the example like a car. A car is a car. So if we analyse the car, we say it's made of many parts. It's got wheels, it's got a bonnet, it's got a roof, it's got an exhaust pipe. If you take away the exhaust pipe, you take away the roof, you take away the wheel, what's left? Nothing. So that's like Buddhism, right? But he says, even before Buddha came with that idea, they were called the Lokayatas, with a similar idea. So these ideas have always existed, but these people like Shankaracharya, Patanjali, they gather together all these type of teachings and put them in together, codify them, you know, organize them into a type of a scripture, you know. So that's what Shankara did. So that was a very hard task, you know, for Lord Shiva, a thankless task to do that, you know. And he said, but Lord Vishnu said, no, it's my wish, and this will be doing a great service to me. You joyfully praise the power of me and my wife to bestow liberation, but we think this power terrible, because the Lord's devotees feel distressed to hear of it. Naturally, devotees, they like to think only Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, can award liberation. Therefore, O best of Krishna's associates, do not think me a recipient of his compassion. Rather, those who have obtained the essence of his mercy are the residents of Vaikuntha. So now Lord Shiva is directing him to the next higher, the Vaikuntha Vasis. Yeah.
Is he the gatekeeper
No, the four-armed residents of Vaikuntha. They're so close with the Lord that they've even, just like if you think of something so intensely, you actually become that thing, or you take on the qualities of that thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So they're so much attached with Lord Vishnu and Narayan, they've actually assumed a body like his, 4 arms, with Sankha, Padma, Gada, and that's one of the 4 kinds of liberation. Same form as the Lord, living on the same planet as the Lord, having the same opulences as the Lord, like that. Vaikuntha liberation. So he said, they have given up everything as worthless straw, worshipping their dear Lord Hari in pure devotion. They have no respect for the desirable achievements of this world. They will not even glance at those perfections. Those devotees have abandoned every kind of false pride, and they have attained the world beyond the material modes and devoid of all fear, Vaikuntha, which is Satchit Anand, full of eternity, knowledge and bliss. So they're above even Lord Shiva, these Vaikuntha, residents of Vaikuntha. There's lots of verses about that, supporting that. In Vaikuntha, the residents have Satchit and Ananda bodies and may avail themselves of the supreme opulence of Lord Hari. They have Satchit and Ananda powers equal to his. But the residents of Vaikuntha do not like to accept such equality with the Lord. So they all these opulences are expansions of the Lord's energy, and they have full access to all of them. But they don't think of themselves as in any way equal to the Lord. They are satisfied simply to worship Lord Hari with devotion. They travel freely wherever they want, protecting and promoting the cause of the Lord's devotees and the Lord's devotional service. Always worshipping the Lord in Vaikuntha, they seem amused by those who are merely liberated. The Vaikuntha Vasis are always busy in various services, for which they even take on forms like those of birds and trees. So they just think, those who are just merely liberated from birth and death and suffering, like impersonal liberation. They're just amused by that. Because what is it? It's nothing. Without the Lord's service, They can always see him in person. Lord Hari, who inspires everyone's pleasure and whose lotus feet are cared for by the goddess of fortune. Their life in his company is pure joy. Where else can one see compassion so exalted as that which Sri Krishna showered constantly on the residents of Vaikuntha Loka? In Vaikuntha nothing exists but devotional service, rendered through Sankirtan and in many other forms. It goes on incessantly, with great enthusiasm, spreading the ecstasy of pure love. So imagine a place where only prema bhakti is the only activity. It's like nothing else could give you any pleasure, watching a video, going in a coffee shop. I don't know, anything, It's the only thing that will give you happiness is worshipping the Lord and singing his glories. Yeah. And that's like recycling. It's coming back to you in the form of like increased desire for that. How amazing is that supremely great ocean of transcendental bliss. The bliss of Brahman cannot compare to even a fraction of half a drop of it. That Vaikuntha world, its residents and everything there are blessed by the mercy of pure love for the lotus feet of Krishna. As recipients of such mercy, the divine residents of Vaikuntha are much greater than I in many ways. How can I adequately describe their glories? So, Vaikuntha is the land of opulence, okay, because the Lord is Narayan and his consort is Shri, Lakshmi Devi. So they're called Shriman. They're all called Shriman, the residents of Vaikuntha. In other words, they're favoured by Shri, Lakshmi. So they have access to every kind of opulence, power, wealth and power. Though living within the material world, in bodies composed of the 5 elements, persons expert in relishing devotional service to the Lord are always worshipable for persons like me. So he's saying, what to speak of the Vaikuntha-vasis, even devotees, pure devotees in the material world, with so-called material bodies, they're also worshipable by me, because they're only exclusively engaged in worshipping the Lord. Whereas he's telling Lord Shiva, I'm not engaged like that. His interest is meditation and elevation through spiritual practice, etc., etc. But they have no interest in that, Only want to serve and worship the Lord. There's no mixture of jnana mishra or karma mishra or anything. But then, of course, we've got to finish now. But then, of course, it goes on, because after Vaikuntha it goes to Golok, where it goes to Ayodhya, and then Dwarka, Mathura, then Vrajadam finally, where you have completely non-calculative devotion. Calculative in the sense that there's no distinction between the Lord and the devotees of high and low. There's sort of like equality, like he's one of us, sort of thing, There is a certain superiority in certain rasas, like in Vatsalya rasa, of course, the parental group, they thinking themselves superior to Krishna in that sense, as his protectors. But like in Sakya rasa, is absolutely equal. There's only some gradation in the age factor. Some friends are slightly younger than Krishna, so their friendship is slightly mixed with some dasya, service. Like serve Krishna like you would serve an elder brother, kind of way. And then those who are slightly older than Krishna, their sakya is slightly mixed with vatsalya, with a protective mood towards Krishna. Then you have the Priya Shakas, they're completely equal. They're the ones who play with Krishna, wrestle with him, call him names, everything. And you have the Priya Nama Shakas, the very intimate friends like Sridham, Subal, and they have some connection with Madhurya, because they go with Krishna on his outings. They go with Krishna on his outings to meet the gopis, and they're somewhat involved in. There's some of them are supporting Krishna against the gopis, some supporting the gopis against Krishna, like that, and advising him, telling him what to do, how to act, different things like that. So those ones, they. Like when Krishna's playing with Balaram and the boys, the suckers, around midday, I read, Krishna gives some excuse. Oh, some cows have wandered off over there. I'll have to go and fetch them, So with this excuse, he takes Sridham and Sudam and leaves Balaram with the others, and they go off to Radhakund, and he has pastimes with the gopis there. And after a couple of hours, he comes back. With the cows. I got them, They didn't know anything.
Oh dear.
So, so that's in Golok. There's non-calculative devotion. So their opulence is the pure the pure oneness with Krishna and serving Krishna as an intimate way without the gap, So they're not aware of him as Bhagavan, like in Vaikuntha. They're always aware of Narayan is our master, and blissfully serving him. Yeah, the difference in that.
A bit mind-blowing.
Sripad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sanatana Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Gurudev ki jai. Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Srimad Mahaprabhu Giriraj Prabhu ki jai.
Tridandi Maharaj ki jai.
Yes, ki jai, Maharaj. Well, my goodness gracious.
So all the gold mines and silver mines, that's the semen of Shiva.
Yeah, so no doubt it's very valuable, isn't it? Gold and silver.
Yeah. Actually, I think I had heard that before.
Do I put the book back up there? No.
It's actually out there.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't know where that is.
Oh, just down there on the left.
Just outside on the left.
In
Yeah.
the left. Oh, actually, no, Didi, sorry, it's not. No, it was in the prasadam room, in the corner, the bookshelf.
Shall we take it?
Yeah. They've only got volume 1, there's 3 volumes of it.
You tell me where
I might buy them
to
for
put
it.
it. There's your hat there. What about the tea? Should I take this?
This costs £140. It's Calvin Klein. 140. I got it for tenner in Oxford. And I said, why? How come you couldn't? He said, because there's a slight mark on it somewhere. I couldn't even find it.
You're going to take some prasadam?
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
Yes. I'll take the cup. Do you want that or have you finished with it? Do you need those?
I'll take it actually.
You want to drink it? So we can put this away. He knows where it goes.
better days.